Hey everybody, it's Rajesh here.
And Tane here.
Welcome to our podcast, Baskets of Knowledge, Chats with a Difference. In our podcast, we invite guests from around the country and around the world to talk about how they got to where they're at the moment. It's about a journey, it's about an experience, it's about their life. Good across everybody, welcome to another episode of Baskets of Knowledge for regular listeners. Thanks for jumping on. If you're a new listener, welcome to our podcast. Tane, what have you put into your basket of knowledge since we last spoke? We missed you last week, by the way. We missed you.
I missed it too. But something I guess I've learned over the last week or so is just the power of mindset and how, even if your situation stays the same, just how, changing your mindset from something that's negative about what's happening in your, in your life and in your circumstance and changing it to something positive. It just helps you, go through your day-to-day stuff. As I've talked about previously, I'm still trying to find a job in the sports sector, which has been pretty challenging. And, it's easy to sit on your laurels and kind of, feel like, oh, it's not going my way. So, I'm not going to exercise properly. I'm not going to get into routine. I'm going to, you almost form those habits as an excuse to, say, oh, this is the reason why other things are going by the wayside. But I think, this week trying to rechange and, refigure that mindset into thinking about positive things and trying to set habits so that even if some of those things aren't necessarily going my way, at least I'm enjoying all the other things that I'm doing, and that I'm in a positive state regardless of what's happening with some of those bigger things that are out of my control.
Yeah, and that's true. We always talk about mindset, but it's easy to talk about mindset, but you need the support structure around you to make sure that mindset is navigated and fosters the way it is. And I think what really links into mindset is one of my learnings or my refreshers again from this week was the imposter syndrome. I was at a talk last week and one of the speakers spoke about imposter syndrome, which was my motivation for writing my article the other day. And it just made me think about, every one of us goes through imposter syndrome at some stage in our lives, whether it is, we could be the most awesome person in the whole wide world, but we have imposter syndrome, like you said before, your mindset, you go, cool, I should apply for a job, but maybe I'm not good enough, even though you are. It's just an imposter syndrome. So as I thought about that, I just think about myself and the people I work with and how many of us actually go through that imposter syndrome, and that stops us from doing even the most basic things, but also stopping us from doing the most crazy, awesome things because of that whole imposter syndrome. So yeah, and I just have to reflect on and think about when I do that with myself and think about, okay, cool, how do I address that there? Yeah, so I think that's a pretty cool thing. Mindset and imposter syndrome actually go really hand in hand. But again, to our regular listeners there, Tana and myself can keep bantering forever and ever, but it's not about us. As you know, we scour the country, we scour the world to find people that we think are amazing. And it's always, as we say, we think everyone is amazing. We wish we could talk to everybody, but we don't have a budget for that there. So if you want to sponsor us, again, feel free to sponsor us. But today, I'm really lucky and really privileged to invite our guest. We have been watching this guest's work from behind the scenes over the last few months, or actually for almost 6 months, and just the passion and the mahi that is done is really beautiful, but it's also really profound and passion filled. So it's an honor to have our guest on today. Welcome to our podcast, Jack.
Cheers, man. Stoked to be on. It's I think right off the bat, you boys cracking straight into some absolute beauties about what you've learnt the past week. Is pretty core and pretty powerful stuff. So I think I'm in the right place talking to the right fellas.
Oh, beautiful. Awesome. So, we obviously know what you do, but what about the listeners? Do they know? Tell the listeners who you are and what you do and what your drive at the moment is, Jack.
Yeah, cool. So I'm Jack Jensen. I own MSFT Productions, which is a brand and business based out of Hawke's Bay, New Zealand. And also a social enterprise now that is called Spark That Chat. Both of these I've grown from an idea or an initiative that's come from what's happened in my life to where it is today, and now it's spans across over 160,000 fans across social media platforms and reaching people on the daily through content creation and things like that. But it's so MSFTs is a content house, it's a production house, as well as a clothing label, events, and work with a bunch of different events and sponsors and brand partners and things to create cool shit and create cool spaces and people with a lot of passion for what they do and alliance in our beliefs and have a lot of fun doing it. I'm also an action sports athlete, so I specialize in freeride motocross, snowboarding, surfing, mountain biking. Those are my main core action sports. I create content and charge large around. And yes, I'm a keynote speaker, MC. And yeah, we're up to a lot of it's a lot of stuff. But yeah, it's a lot of fun and makes a lot of sense to us, and it's all works within the message of spreading as much froth as we can while I'm breathing on this planet, as well as the Misfit team and the Spark That Chat team, and again doing whatever we can to spark as many chats and get people basically pumped on life as much as we can. I just as that hit of adrenaline or being in my stoked place myself, I very much get, the best feeling in the world is to help someone. So if I can create space or create something to stoke someone out, it sets the soul and heart on fire, in the most beautiful way. So yeah, a lot I could keep talking about. We could go into all sorts of different strands across Misfits and Spark That Chat, but yeah, that's the basic overview.
I think what's awesome, for myself and for Tana is just the passion that comes through, the passion that comes through, not just about what you do, but about the fact that it's not about you, it's about other people. I think too many times in the world, we work with people that just focus on what's good for me. And this is where the world becomes really quite challenging. So it's pretty awesome. But if I said to you, Jack, when you were in high school all those years ago, and I said to you, hey, Jack, this is what was going to happen to you, you're going to create this, would that have been something that was front of mind for you, or was your journey a little bit different?
Oh, it would be a dream. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I could say I'm living my dream, that's for sure. That's a good question. If I got asked that at high school, yeah, I'd be massively stoked and proud of where I'm at, for sure. It's been a hell of a journey to get here. And we're cranking through what we're doing and growing more and more, but to be right here right now, it's an epic time to reflect as well. So that question's definitely good for it. But I'd be absolutely pumped. I had a mindset at school, like whenever I knew I was going to do, the degree thing, like my family is real, like, and in terms of sorts of navigates us towards that of getting the ticket sort of thing.
Yep.
So that was always on the cards, whatever point of time that was. But I did it straight out of school. So I got a degree in agri-commerce, majoring in international agribusiness, and at the same time I worked for Red Bull for 2.5 years, and learned a lot through that time. But yeah, always had the idea, always had like the drive to, as soon as I get the opportunity, being my own boss.
Yeah.
Like creating my own dream, working every single day towards that. So it's to be here today and doing what I'm doing, but again, like you said, man, emphasizing the fact it's like it's a culture and it's in itself, and it's helping so many people on the daily is what it's all about, man. I'm here to help people. I'm here to froth people out, and that's what I'm going to be doing as long as I'm breathing. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, awesome. And it's quite, I love that, because sometimes we just follow the navigation of life and we forget about actually having fun. We've spoken of this before. We had Kai a few weeks ago, and he was the same. And he just said, hey, there's no point doing things if you're not having fun, and if you're not impacting people in whatever way the impact is, hopefully a positive impact. And I think too many times we just focus on, okay, cool, I've got my degree, I've got to buy the house, I've got to find a partner, I've got to tick those boxes there. But in amongst all that there, you forget about the fun. And the fun could look like so many things. So it's really cool that you are, using our words, that you're frothing, because, that's the main thing that we want to do in life. We forget about that. Okay. So basically the question I have for you, Jack, is, what was that, when you use your words, what is the moment that sparked your interest in Misfit, but also in Spark Their Chat, because they're two very different things. Even though they align, they have one of them came out of something else.
Yeah, no, great question. So Misfits was always like it was a dream. It was a driving force. Like, you know, for example, being very inspired by the likes of a brand like Red Bull. Being a part of the team, learning so much about the culture and how it was so insightful and so inspiring. And I've always had, you know, the action sports, extreme sports backgrounds and what I do and how I've grown up on a sheep and beef farm and just getting out there and cracking into it and giving things a crack and sending it, breaking bones, getting up, bloody mending, keeping on pushing forward, sort of thing. So it's like a really big part of my heart is drawn to action sports, a big part of my pulse. So like I wanted to create and around that, like I had a real draw to creating content, to create, like it started with creating videos and getting photos to capture memories and like bank the memories, and then understanding we're doing some pretty cool shit. So putting that out, and you know, the social media was at a real like growth process then as well, and to now, you know, the platforms that are driving the brand and driving the business and everything. So starting at the start and just like being so passion driven towards this aim of it really had a dream of mine to create a culture with what I believe in, and that human being a good person that like around them with respect and love and themselves, but also have like that super sentiment, giving it a crack and encouraging others, and just a super empowerment zone, really. And you know, that's now what Misfits has grown to, and which is very inclusive and has so many different strokes of life and walks of life that come in and embrace what Misfits is, really all united through Stoke. And that's where it was spreading the froth. So that's what I mean. You know, it's like it's been an unreal journey doing that. And then within where it is now as a branding company in itself, we and crew as well, because this originated as a group of mates. You know, that's how Misfits, the name came about. A group of mates, Hawke's Bay Misfits, getting after it, causing havoc and having a hell of a time doing it. Since we're grommets, you know, since we're like 15. So it's pretty, you know, where it comes from in the heart from me. But anywho, so where that was, you know, that's a very much a story behind Misfits, and you know, it's now 6 years since I've been full time with the brand and grown to where it is today, which is it's pretty epic to reflect on. Came from, so again, like always, like it had like an underlying factor of like the mental health side of things without going into the really deep shit.
Yeah.
From the get-go, because I didn't really have much experience in that realm of, I knew that, you know, like as a growing up, I've always been open and not like also respecting my emotions and stuff, and I've been brought up that way, so I've been pretty in touch with that, but I've never really understood the real down until I noticed it was a couple years into Misfits, maybe 2 or 3 years, where I started noticing, of all ages, that was my rugby coach, took his life. And he was an absolute legend. And he was my direct coach when I was 11, 12 years old. Biggest smile sort of thing. And then one of my good mate from uni, his little brother took his life within 6 months of each other. And that gave me like a real like indication of, hey, I have this platform, and Misfits probably would have been maybe just under sort of 10,000 followers, if that, and then the social sort of around that 20,000 mark sort of thing, but knew I had a platform to be able to voice, and also our connection with our fan base is really awesome. Especially on the daily stuff. So I you know, that's when I started to incorporate it and like voice it a bit. And then probably a couple months after that, that's when our first real good mate of the Misfit crew, one of the boys, he decided to take his life. And that was it was out, just pretty out the gate. And to this day it is, reflecting and stuff. But that's again I put a video up that day I found out and just said, hey, we're gonna be taking a break with the socials and stuff. And because we've just lost a mate, and it was a real raw emotional video, and I didn't think too much of it, to be fair. I just spoke, put it up, and then turned the phone off, sort of thing, and went into that. And then I picked my phone up like 48 hours later, sort of thing, and the messages pretty much blew up, and the video circulated a lot, and there was far too many messages that were messaging in to send condolences and love, that knew the feeling that they'd lost mates, they've lost cousins, they've lost brothers, they've lost uncles, they've lost, so many, just whatever it was just so like, it was a feeling I couldn't really explain. It hit me like a bus. And I was like, I was clearing all these messages, and just again, the appreciation and love for our fan base is incredible. But that was like really, I guess, alarming, and being like, this is far more and far too common. So basically, over that time, of healing of the next few months or whatever, we went through I went through what I did, and the biggest, most powerful tool amongst getting over these hurdles and through this emotion of loss that makes no sense was talking, was sparking that chat. As simple as that. Spark that chat. And it's within that time, that's when I was like, we've got to do something about it. So that's when we held our first Spark That Chat campaign in 2021. So this year, currently right now, is our 4th annual campaign, where we dedicate our whole social media platform in March to spark as many chats as we can and raise as much money as we can for the cause. Working with the Mental Health Foundation, and now Spark That Chat growing from an initiative to a full-fledged movement, now into a social enterprise where there's 6 that sit on the board of it, and it's all about just creating spaces and helping people not only survive but thrive. So we work in that real proactive space now. That's where we belong. We don't even want them to go down that hole. We're doing whatever we can to spread the message and spread tools and talk about this. People can acknowledge it, even if there's a little inkling within that early stage of being like, oh shit, I need to go and talk to a mate, or talk to a professional, or I need to go out and chase waves, or I need to go out to my happy place and spend as much time there to get my stoke levels high again, to get my self-love high again. So that's really the space of where we are today. But that was the essence of where it's come from, and will always be the real grassroots level of exactly doing that. So utilizing the tools we're all born with, and that's the ability to be able to speak and listen. And we all can do that if by choice. So spark that chat. It can be life-saving.
Totally. No, thank you for sharing that there, because there's a lot of raw emotion there, as you spoke about some personal losses there, and it's real because it's so funny. It always happens to somebody else. It's always someone else, and then when it actually happens to you, whatever that is, it changes the whole story. The whole narrative changes, and then, as you said before, when you put it out there and people come back and go, actually, this is not just out there. It's someone's story, and that story is multiplied by 1,000, by 2,000. You're like, wait a minute. Let's stop right here. What is actually going on? But what I like about what you've just said before is it's not just about the stories out there and people can talk, but we know that people don't like to talk for whatever reason. I'm going to go back to imposter syndrome. It's just me, or it's no one else who's listening to it. But the fact that you've got to create that safe space, or we use the word safe, but actually the space, whatever that is, to have the conversation is the hard bit there. And you've done a pretty awesome job with that there. And Tana, you spoke about when you first started going to therapy and how hard that was for you initially.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, no, sorry, bro.
Good. Yeah, for sure. Like, it was quite challenging to go, but again, there's varying levels too. I think, and I think when I went in, it wasn't at probably my hardest times, but it was me realizing that I actually needed something. Yeah, only once a month, but to be able to go to somebody who didn't really know me from the bar of soap, but was able to listen to all the things that I was going through. And it was also a good signpost for me to know where I was in that point of time. But I think too, going back to the starting the conversation, it's probably the hardest part, and some of my closest mates, now that I've actually had those conversations, we don't have them often, but when we do, it's actually a really cool, experience to be a part of. And I think you're right. We don't open up enough. We don't have those conversations enough, because it's much easier to put up that front than to actually say, look, I'm actually pretty struggling at the moment.
Yeah, but
it's easier to brush it off than talk about that hardship. It's easier for those amount of days to be able to continually do that. But then, that gets to that zone, right? Where people hit a wall and they're like, holy, I'm now in the hole because I've bottled up so much stuff. My bottle's exploded and I am in bits and pieces, and I don't know how to navigate through this because my mind is boggled and I haven't been able to vent. It's crazy with like the amount of that. We only can handle so much within our brain capacity to be able to take on so much. And even when you've got all those thoughts in your head, they spin around and they grow and they go down different paths that don't even sometimes exist. They can get so toxic, and they can, that's where overthinking stems from, right? So it's like, instead of doing it and knowing, I think it's people that just don't really understand that. But when you talk to them about that, they can actually learn to understand, holy, that does happen. And how do I stop that from happening? It's keeping connected with your mates. It's keeping connected with your loved ones, or a family, or a like you said, bro, a therapist, where there's no relation there whatsoever, a word that stuck out, like, was listen, bro. Like, that's it. Sometimes it's just as powerful to listen as it is to speak, So yeah, it's crazy. It's these very simple things we all have access to, but is completely overlooked. And I say that, that's where, honestly, that's where the superpower lies. It's just about people learning about it and then practicing it.
And it's so crazy because the world complicates something very simple. Like you said before, it's just simple. It could be a conversation. It could be hitting the waves. It could be going for a run. It could be going for a sauna. It could be whatever, but it becomes so complicated. Oh, you need to have some medication. You need to do all that kind of stuff there. But actually, wait a minute. If I just go right back, what am I doing for myself today? And the word that you used there, Jack, was, what is your self-love for today? And it's really interesting because in the space that I work in, I'm like, hey guys, it's okay for you to do this stuff without feeling guilty. You can do stuff without feeling guilty and go, oh, I should be doing this here. But no, what, according to whose world should you be doing the stuff here? You should be looking after yourself. That's the big should, as opposed to can I. So I love that the self-love is really important. So yeah. And again, the other thing, I also want to emphasize the fact, self-love is always, for some weird reason, is linked to if you identify as female, whereas males, I was at a school just now, and I was at New Plymouth Boys, and I just spoke about looking after yourself. Hey guys, you got to do this, you got to be able to talk. And I just got this big laugh, and everyone was like, oh, I was like, hey guys, this is actually normal for you to talk. You don't need to be macho about it. If you're struggling, you've got to ask for help. So that reaction was really interesting. Versus if I go into a female school, totally different. They're like, yeah, here we go. So I don't know whether you see that in your space, whether this could be a stereotypical thing. but I see that especially when I work with a lot of young, say 17, 18-year-old males together in a group, the group mentality is very interesting compared to if I just speak to them one-on-one. What are your thoughts
Yeah.
about that, Jack? I don't know if that's true, but that's just what I've observed.
I think yeah, it's a real interesting one, bro. Like that is, I think, the overall of what's out there. But like, my personal my experience has been, I guess, like when I've been a keynote speaker within these all boys schools, or whether that be from 500-600 students to 20 at once. I think because with the way I lead and talk about some real shit straight off the bat and storytell in my way and connect to them, I've found that they do straight get like a way. There's like it's a barrier I see that drops straight away.
Yeah.
I think it's a real I get what you mean by an overall, bro. Like, and that's what I think is changing, and I think that I really do believe, like, all the work that's been happening over the past years, and I've seen change. It's
100%.
shifting. Like,
Yep.
there's young fellas that are talking to us or a crew or we've met, and they're like, they talking about sparking that chat with their mates, and they might be 16. So like, and I remember being that age, and like, there wasn't really talk about, we always had each other's backs, but there wasn't like, you weren't consciously thinking about sparking that chat or like looking after each other's mental health, or you chose, but you didn't like consciously know that, like, around like what actions can cause or things can cause with their mental health and their and them being well and their well-being. So yeah, it's a mixed bag, man. But I do see but yeah, yeah, again, in the spaces that I've witnessed, I think it's because I lead with vulnerability.
Yep,
It's
totally.
been a huge tool to be able to work in this space. And I think straight away they're like, holy, this the sender, this lad that's hardcore on these, these action sports, and putting the, getting out there and, sometimes getting hurt and rebounding off, some of the gnarliest, whether they're coming back from losing parts of limbs or breaking, broke 17 bones. Like the heartiness, flipping the script, man. That's been a big one. Has been flipping the script, being like, bro, you are just as gnarly. The same feeling. You're sitting looking at a face of 160-foot jump on a dirt bike, and that feeling of like, ooh, like, that, oh, it's a hell of a feeling, but also that the nerves that kick in, the adrenaline, the angst, those things. But when you hit it and then you land down on the other side and you're like, whoa, fuck, that was sick. It honestly is. I can correlate it to approaching a really gnarly conversation. And I think, and at the start, you're real daunted. You're going to be like, fuck, this could go this way, this way, this way. And I'm, getting the bit. Once you choose to hit it, once you choose to 100% commit, and you roll into that, and you get through that conversation, you've hit that jump, and you've landed back on your feet on the other side. It's a very similar feeling, and I guess I've told that story within whatever it is that can be relatable to these young fellas and fellas of all ages, I guess.
I think
I'll get down but yeah, that's sort of my aspect, because it can be really daunting and it can be scary as hell, because you're being vulnerable and you're showing your 100% self, and not the glorious side, but you get through it, and man, it's like you said, bro, it's it brings the boys together closer. You learn about someone, you see them for who they are, you respect them more, because they're showing their 100% self, because that life's not all sunshine and rainbows. So it's seeing them that, and it makes life and relationships better. Yeah.
And totally. Totally. And I like that because, there's this perception out there that life is all sunshine and rainbows, but actually there's no time in life that life has ever been like that. There's nobody has a life that's sunshine and rainbows. You could be the richest person, the poorest person. Sunshine and rainbows does not happen. And you're gonna have days when things are pretty shitty. And you go, right, well, how do I cope with that shitty day? And like you said, you have those tools to be vulnerable and go, hey, I'm having a shitty day. And it's really, I love that you said that because I've been in this job for a long time. And when I first started, none of the guys would contact me when they're having a bad time. But over the last 5 years, I have crazy messages where people are like, hey, Prajesh, I'm struggling. And the first thing that you have to do is acknowledge that, because I think you've got to, hey, cool, it's awesome that you've opened up to tell me this. And I think that's what I've learned is, as opposed to going, oh, what's the problem, whatever, you go, wait a minute, the fact that you've actually stopped, taken time to send me a message or send me a voice message to go, that's a huge shift. And then they tell you the story and then you go, right, cool. Then we work from there. So, your phraseology of spark that chat can be used for so many different ways, but it's that spark. If you want to start a fire, you've got to have a spark. If you want to start anything in life, if you want to start an engine, a combustion engine, you have to have a spark, right? And I guess with electric as well, you've got to have a spark somewhere along the way. So that is really cool. We won't talk about sustainability right now. We'll just go sparking. Let's go spark all the things.
Yeah, nah, 100%. And I think like what you said back to the start as well, Tony, like, but around like at the very start, you said about perspective and what you learned like over the last week. I think that an attitude that can come back to like that can be, you can utilize that as one of the most powerful tools in your toolkit to be able to, sometimes, honestly, as we all know, sometimes things happen and you're just like, it hurts or it's frustrating or it's mind-boggling or it doesn't make sense. But, as humans, we're trying to make sense of it. We're trying to. But I think the biggest, a huge, it was on a podcast and he was a clinical psychologist and incredible human. He coached, he was their psychologist for the UK Olympic team 2 years, and then just helped a lot of incredible athletes. He's an episode I do on a diary of a CEO. Actually, I encourage you guys to listen to it. And but two things he said like that have stuck with me. And again, getting back to such simple things: accept, move forward.
Yep.
If it's unfair, accept, move forward. If it makes no sense right there and then, and it wasn't, and it didn't, and it just mind boggles you, accept, move forward. And it can be some of the toughest, like that can be super tough. Sometimes that can be super tough to even hear, accept, move forward. But when that hits properly, I think it can be one of the most powerful things for your mindset to be hooked on. And actually, like when it hits, you're like, holy shit. And it allows you to drop all that energy you're giving to that, maybe that thought or that, and I have to practice what I preach here as well. And I do my best to do that. And it's harder at certain times, but when it hits and you get back to those basic things of whether that, for me, it's exercise and training and things, and get back to those places, that allows accept and move forward in your best way you can to be a lot easier. And again, that's just like back to what we talked about with sunshine and rainbows, bro, and seeing and being and that not happening all the time. And sometimes it doesn't happen for a long time, but when it does, it's incredible. It's like taking those and continuing to have that perspective to learn, I think. Like always learning, be real optimistic.
Yep.
Seeing and choosing your attitude for certain things. And again, sometimes you can be massively challenged with get curveball after curveball after curveball. But, at the end of the day, no one can take your attitude away from you but you.
100%. I love that, the simple thing, accept and move on. Accept and move on is so simple, but it's also so hard because accepting something is the hardest thing. Once you can accept it, but you go, hey, accept and control. Can I control it? I can't control it. I'm going to accept it. And most of the things that we worry about, we can't actually control. and you're actually control. I can't control this. I'm going to accept it. I'm going to move forward. And it reminds me of John Cohen. John Cohen's 2 words, dot and dat. Do one thing, do another thing. So when you're in the States, you do one thing, you do another thing, whatever that is. Again, back to simple. Keep things simple, and life flows when you keep things simple.
It does. It's wild, eh? Like all this complexity and things, and like people are really good at overcomplicating things nowadays, especially the way the world works, whether that be with technology or even some health and safety shit or whatever it is. That overcomplication, it really reverses back to whatever it is that the point is. But when you strip everything back and you get back to those basics, eating well, exercising, giving yourself the time of day to love yourself, to be able to fuel your stoke in whatever way that is, to surround yourself with good people, to log off your phone, to disconnect from social media, to live in the present. These real simple things that even if writing them down and looking at them every day, I have, some stuff on the wall I look at every day when, looking at that, just to be visual and sometimes being reminded even when it's hard. But yeah, it's getting back to the basics, and that's what I so firmly believe, and that's what we are very much all about within Spark That Chat and Misfits, is really embracing the power of these real simple things that we have access to,
which is awesome. And you've got an amazing team, but no team can be awesome without the passion from a leader. So obviously your passion is coming through, and at the back you can see your gloves there, and I see the word "spread the froth" there, right there. So obviously you're living and breathing what you believe in, which is pretty cool. I mean, it's on your hands, which is great, which is really
hard
cool.
out. And even this, check that out. That
brilliant.
it's probably it's reversed, I think, in your camera, but it's be your biggest fan.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's tough. But if you get back to being your biggest fan, shit, it can be empowering as well, because like you'd stick up for your best mate, stick up for yourself, back yourself.
Yeah, totally.
So yeah, it's another big.
It reminds me of a quote I heard once before. You come into the world alone, you leave the world alone. So along that way, what you do for yourself, being your biggest fan, is the way you go, right? Too many times you forget other people, but if you're your biggest fan, people feed off that there, and you feed off that, and you go, and life happens. So yeah, really quite cool. Jack, I know you've got to go soon. So we'll run with the podcast. I mean, there's so much we can go down, so many different channels. I mean, this is a fantastic conversation, and we'd love to have you back at some other point when you are less busy. But to run off our podcast, our podcast is called Bosses of Knowledge, and we invite our guests to share a piece of knowledge to put into our basket. You've obviously shared quite a bit today, but is there any piece of knowledge that you go, hey, listeners, Tanya and myself, this is something that I've learned in my either personal life or my business that you think would be awesome to put into our basket of knowledge?
Back yourself, I reckon. Yeah. If you have a dream, big or small or whatever it is, life, you honestly don't know what's around the corner. You don't know what tomorrow might bring. You don't know, and I think as the years go on, you get to understand that more and more. And even being around, being around death, you get to understand that it's not a forever.
Yep.
But your life holds so much value and so much purpose if you choose to. So if you believe in something, you really do, and you have passionate about it. If you are passionate about what you want to do, and even if people laugh at you, even people you love and they laugh at you, back yourself, chase it, make it happen. It will happen. You'll make it happen. If you want it hard enough, if you want it enough, you'll work towards whatever it takes to be able to get what you want. So back yourself.
I think that's such a profound thing, because a lot of people out there don't back themselves. The minute it gets too hard, the minute somebody laughs, the minute someone goes, "This is a bad idea," imposter syndrome kicks in. People don't back themselves, and whatever awesomeness they're going to bring to the world disappears. I mean, if someone said to you, "Jack, this is a silly idea, this wouldn't exist." If someone said to Elon Musk all those years ago, "This is a dumb idea," that wouldn't exist. If someone said to Joe Rogan, your podcast is a silly idea, that wouldn't happen, right? So if you think about all the mavericks out there, if someone said to them, hey, this wasn't going to work, they just back themselves, and it's hard at the start, and then boom. I mean, like you said, at the start it was pretty challenging, but you get through that, and then you get to, yeah.
And it is. It's tough. It's tough as, and there's times that absolutely is like sometimes it's lonely, you know. But that is very much, I think, anyone that achieves greatness or achieves something really good within, there is those times. You talk to anyone successful, whatever, again, what level that is. You have to go through all sorts of shit to be able to get there, to be able to navigate through people and life and these things, but it's those people that refuse to quit. It's just keep grinding, keep loving it, love the journey, take on the journey, and enjoy it as much as you can. Because there's a lot, again, in that hardship and gnarliness, there is so much more greatness and feeling and fulfillment and the love for what you're doing. That will just continue to drive, again, like someone messaging you saying, "Whoa, that's sick," or "That's awesome," or "You've helped me." That's gas to the fire, and you'll get there.
Yeah,
so
totally.
Back yourself.
Totally, back yourself. Tanya, any last questions for Jack before we round off?
No, it's been an awesome podcast, and I think some timely stuff that you've talked about too. With coaching, I'm going away this weekend with the girls up to nationals, and I've been, trying to put a piece together around, finding out who the girls actually are. A lot of the time, especially being a coach, you see all that superficial stuff, all that, the stuff they bring to training, but obviously there's a lot of stuff that I know that goes on behind the scenes, not only in their busy lives themselves, but also, hardships and stuff like that. And so for me, it's really about teaching those girls that, hey, sport is obviously part of it, but you've got so many other cool things in your life that, we're here to support, and we're here to support regardless of what you're doing in life. So that's been a really timely reminder. And also this backing yourself, I think, especially in the girls' game, I've seen a lot of lack of confidence in girls just in general, to do, whether it's through school, whether it's through sports. But I think, again, there's only so many times I can harp on and say, you need to back yourself, you need to be confident in yourself. But it's finding, I guess, other ways to be able to spark that fire and spark that conversation in themselves, that actually, no, I've got the confidence in myself. I don't need coach to be telling me that, I can do this. I know I can do it. And so, yeah, this has been a really awesome conversation, to see from a coaching point of view as well.
Awesome, bro. Stoked to hear it.
Beautiful. Fantastic. Jack, you can see why I kept on chasing you from the middle of last year to get you on here, because you've shared some fantastic words today. Lots of stuff there that resonates with me, but also resonates with our listeners out there, I'm pretty sure. But what I really loved about it is just the passion. Nothing here is scripted. Everything just comes straight from the heart. Everything comes straight from the fact that, hey, you're here doing something, not just for yourself, but for the world around you, and whatever that looks like. It could just be the Hawke's Bay, but that the ripple effect is pretty crazy. When you do good, the ripple effect affects generations, and this is pretty awesome. So the Mahi is fantastic. So thank you for jumping on. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for sharing the froth, and it's pretty beautiful. So for myself and Tanya, thank you so much for jumping on. For our listeners, hopefully you enjoyed that podcast. Hopefully you've learned something. If you haven't learned something, like we say, go back and have a listen again, because you've missed out. Take some notes, because this is a pretty profound episode for you to go and take away some stuff, and remember to back yourself. So till next time, remember to put something into your basket of knowledge. Remember to keep smiling. And as Jack said today, remember to back yourself. Till next time, ka kite. Bye, everybody. Peace. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Baskets of Knowledge.
Yeah, we hope that you found something useful to put into your basket of knowledge. And as we said before, remember to put something little into your baskets of knowledge every week. And as always, feel free to like, comment, and share this podcast. Thanks, everybody. Bye.